Hey folks, Kevin here. Well, it's May 31st, 2022. It's been a couple of days since I've done a garden update at all, or not a garden update, but an update on the progress of transforming the eastern garden plot. And I had to stop for a couple of days because we had about close to 48 hours of continuous raining. Not heavy downpours, just brief periods of heavy downpours. But we've also had some very high temperatures. For this time of year, we usually don't get these temperatures until July, end of June, beginning of July through August and into the upper 80s and all. So that's made it a bit of a challenge, but we were able to anticipate that this year, and so when we do a garden update, you'll see how well some of the plants have been doing in the gardens as well. But I thought what I'd do today is show you what I've got accomplished so far and what the plans are for the rest of the modifications for the eastern garden plot. So I'm going to turn the camera around now and we'll take a look. Okay, so it's morning at this point here, so the sun's just coming up, so hopefully this won't be too bad. I have gotten some of the fencing up. This is a and of course some of the this is a cattle panel fencing that was used for the hoop trellises that we grew the scarlet red runner beans on. So a lot of this trellis material here, most of it came from the second hoop that I took down over there, which we'll look at in a couple of moments. But I think when we last left everything, I had rototilled the paths over here in the garden, and I had used the swivel rotary plow or hiller to throw soil up onto the top. Then I had raked out the residual material to try and get back the normal conformation. We had removed the drip tapes ahead of time. Then I took some alfalfa pellets and I laid it on top of the beds. Then I used the tilther to tilt in some of the alfalfa pellets, and that's the lighter color material that you may be able to notice there as well. Since then, I did come over and I was able to clean out the rest of the area. As far as garden design goes, there's really a few major defects with the system that I've designed here. Number one, we have a large honey locust tree here right in the middle of this garden. And this was designed for providing shade during the summer months for our house, our passive solar home. And another thing is the length of each one of these beds. They get progressively longer, and we did shorten those in a couple of videos ago. So ideally having beds that are all the same length, so it's easy to have all the same length drip tapes, all the same length weed mats, all the same length tarps to cover it during the winter months, all of those things, and it's easier to calculate the number of plants that you're planting and all. So that's something. And of course we wanted to, after gardening down and back beyond the solar panels, way down and back down there, that was just getting too far for us to get to do our regular things. With it being close to our house, and it would also, you could call it kitchen gardens. You can come right out here, check to make sure there aren't any leaks in the tapes, make sure there aren't any pest problems coming on and all. So you really want to have it really close to where you're sleeping and spending most of your time. And that's why I moved them up here, and I made the compromise. Okay, we'll put them where their tree is. We'll pack it all into a relatively small area and all. And I had designed this before where where the driveway was narrower, the access road. So I ended up widening out the driveway, cutting back those beds, cutting back these beds as well, and all. So I just wanted to say that. The other thing is, here we have this block wall, and if you're using a piece of equipment like a BCS two-wheel tractor like I use, the turnaround spot up here is a hassle. You want to have a good wide open area at each end, not a fence like that at all. So that will make it a hassle if I need to get the BCS tractor in here to fix these beds. So you want to have something that's, if it's this close, you want to be able to take down the fencing real easily, and these cattle panels aren't super easy to take down. So I just wanted to clarify some of the shortcomings of this. The other thing is, you can see I put a mound here at the end, which wasn't here before, because I was able to work the rototiller and the rotary swivel plow up through here. But this helps to maintain the supply water line for each one of the drip tapes at the appropriate height. And again, our permanent raised beds are much taller than just about anybody else that I see. I did see that Tim's Permaculture Homestead, he's really trying to do some no-till beds as well. He's in the first phase of exploring this option and all. I don't think he used any cardboard to cover the lawn for sheet mulching initially, but he is using many of the same techniques. And we love the raised bed part for ease of strain on our backs and all. And so I'm going to be planting some of these beds soon. The other thing we did do is this bed here, I used Elon. Well, first, I'm sorry, I should back off for a moment. After leaving it where we left the last video, I came back and Thea and I pulled the drip tapes back over into location. I turned on the water supply to make sure there weren't any major leaks, and there weren't. I went ahead and cut off and terminated each one of the beds now that each one of the beds is shorter. So that was all set. So now we have beds that have had cover crops on it, that have had some soil thrown up on the top of them from the paths. So they're reestablished the height of them. We use some alfalfa pellets to help also feed the microorganisms in the beds as well. Then I decided before this, I just pulled the drip tapes to either side, and I used Elon with the grading bucket just to poke down, right down the center of this bed, as well as the bed down there in the central garden plot, the one closest to the outer fence. That way there, we were able to come back, and I took some leaf mulch and put it down in the base of each one of these beds, of the potato beds, and then we put in this one the russet potatoes that we had down in the root cellar. So we had a whole bunch of those, put those in there. And our blue flesh potatoes we put over there in that bed as well. So so they're dug down a ways, but I wanted to, because of our limited strength and mobility, I wanted the potato beds near the fence edge so that I could reach over with Elon if my back is hurting me or whatever, and dig up the potatoes, bring them to the surface, and then reform the beds in the future. We will be putting some flowers along in this bed. I plan on planting corn and carrots over in these beds as well. We'll see what I do end up planting. We'll put some flowers in that bed over there just north of the honey locust tree there. And already the scarlet red runner beans have been planted along the long hoop trellis there. So the cattle panels here. So I did put one 6 or 8 foot gate right here. I sunk one post here. These are gates that we've had for years. You can't open the gate very far so far, but this pergola here is going to come down as soon as I get around to it. Oh Lord. And this will give us access to get right through the garden area over here as well. So then I took the cattle panels, and I'm using electrical fencing wire here, hold it to the posts, all the posts. Now there's just a couple of 4x4s, just this one 4x4 here, and the rest are T-posts. So these are 6 foot T-posts here, and these are 7 foot T-posts here, and I just use the electric wire to hold it to here. I can make sure that the sharp ends, trying to move them around in here so that I don't have to worry about a tire or a piece of equipment. I will bring some gravel in here ultimately to build up this area here and to rebuild the driveway access road as well. But you can see they're alternating for the most part. So that's a 7 foot T-post there, a 6 foot here, 7 foot, 6 foot, 6 foot. Now by having these 7 footers here, what I can do now to help discourage the deer from getting on here is I'll put an electric fence wire going from the top of each one of these 7 foots going right down. So they will droop some, and I will use some of the 2x2s or 1 3/4 by 1 3/4 pressure treated boards that I had on the top of the pergola there, and attach them to each one of these posts as well as these posts over here, so that we can, before I've used paracord over here, I may use paracord again, but for now I'll be using electric fence wire probably over on this side. So let's walk around here. So the cattle panels, I just went ahead and bent them accordingly so that they could go around the corners and the angles that we wanted. Got a gate here in this location, so this is real easy to get in and out of this. There's the hoop trellis here, and we can see some of the beans are just starting to germinate now. So we should see those over this next week starting to pop their little heads up. And again, I haven't planted these beds yet except for the potatoes over there. And you may recall for years I had irises all around in here. Now this is our herb garden over here that Thea went ahead and pruned and thinned. This was all area that I had irises in before, and I transplanted those last season out back because we're having so many problems with weeds. Over in this area here, we grew the hardwood cuttings of the black currant, so we got those started over here last year, and they did great. But I decided to reduce the amount of fencing around in here. I reduced the amount of garden because that's the whole thing, getting reduced back to the point where it's easier to manage. And I still have a hell of a lot more to do here, unfortunately. But we're trying to get to the point where we'll try to decide what is the perfect fencing for us. And I'll show you that in just a second. I mentioned before our strawberries, all the strawberry plants that we had purchased from our county soil and water, none of them actually were viable. But all of our other strawberries, which was very few of, are doing just great. But the deer had been coming in, so I decided after the rain set back some, I did decide to go ahead and get the some more of the fencing up. I got a lot of that up yesterday and the day before. Not as able to get quite as much done, but since the strawberries didn't make it, Thea took the rest of our red onion plants and planted those along in here. We'll plant some more plants along in here as well. But here's more of the cattle panel fencing here, and that's our rain gutter garden. That's all doing very well so far. But I think we'll give you an update on the gardens. So you can see here, I went ahead and just bent the cattle panel so it come right around the corner here. All I did do was I laid the cattle panel down on the ground over here, and I took Optimus Maximus here and I drove up over the panel, and I knew where I wanted to do the bend, and I just laid my bucket down and then just bent it up. And that made a pretty decent corner here. I mean, it's not perfect, but it suffices for what we're doing here. And you can see this is where the cattle panels overlap. I overlapped them. I didn't do them end to end. So there's two squares overlapped and the electric fencing wire holding it there. I decided in many of the places to put them up on blocks. And the reason that I put it up on blocks was so that weeds are such an issue whenever you're having fencing. And, you know, no matter what, the little guys, the small rodents are going to get in and out through the cattle panel. Now, the cattle panel has this, but a rabbit can slip right through this here, and that's why I have this a little bit different, because the songbirds love being on here, and all of our fly catchers are on here throughout the day, the fencing and all. Not only are they on the top of each of the T-posts, but they're such an integral part of our pest management system here. So with the weeds, with not worrying so much about the small mammals, and letting a lot of the critters make their way in and out of the gardens without getting hurt, I thought that would be fine. And this would allow me to be able to use a weed whacker along the margins here as well. So here we are here. Let's get down here. So this is the this is the fencing. Now over in the western garden plot, you can see we've been using kennel panels for years, heavier galvanized kennel panels. And with the garden, you don't have a dog jumping up against the kennel panels. And I believe that these are powder coated. I'm not positive. And they're black and they're kind of attractive. Thea likes them a lot. And these are portable ones, so that they've got actually wing nuts on them here to be able to disassemble them and all. And I decided what I would do is bring these kennel panels over, strap them temporarily to the corner posts of the dog run, and try this system, try to get it fairly level going across and work its way going down with this one kennel section that a friend gave to us. And the truth is, these are light enough for me to handle pretty easily and set up. So this may be the way that we go. We're going to see. We're going to give this a year and see. And now we've got access to get in and out either side, and you get an idea of what things look like. I put the T-posts on the outside of these, and you can see that I've got them just a electric fence wire holding these right down, just like the rest of it there. But this is more discouraging. Yes, it's only 6 foot tall, but it's more discouraging for the deer to jump over. And I purposely put these right next to where Thea went ahead yesterday and transplanted the sweet potatoes. And I still have to hook up the water line here. It's not hooked up. And I'll give this a little bit of a watering today and see if I can get these lines hooked up. But this is where one of the big trellises was before. And in the end of the video, the last time I came over here and I rototilled this area, I did go out back and do some rototilling before the rototiller broke the spindles and a couple of the tines, doing a place for the raspberry plants out back. But eventually we'll get some decent gates up here for the dog run, make it easy access getting in and out of here. And just trying to get this, as we get older, to make it much more simple, New English, much more usable, user-friendly, an enjoyable place to work in, to not feel the need to do, to look forward to heavy labor work in the future. Trying to get this as maintenance-free as possible. Again, things that I would say that I would do absolutely differently. Certainly, I wouldn't be planting a garden with a tree in the middle of it. There's roots that are going to come up throughout the garden places and all. You're going to get seeds coming up. But it's also some plants are pretty good with partial shade. And if you're going to pick a type of tree, the honey locust, it really just does dappled shading for the most part. So that's where we are at this point. I just thought I'd give you an update on this. I'll try and do an update on the area that I've been working up front with the swales. I did spend quite a few hours up there during the rainy parts and all. But here we are in the eastern garden plot, some of the modifications and some of the plans, and everything's fluid. Things in life are, I try to have so that it's always open to modifications and changes to try and get the best system possible for ourselves as time goes on. So that's my update at this point. Sorry we didn't capture a lot of footage these last few days. It's been so hot. I've been trying to do as much as I can get done. So there isn't that much footage to show you, but I just wanted to give you an update, progress report. We'll try and do an update on the gardens, how the plants are doing so far, and give you an update on the swale systems up front, some of the work I've been doing up there. Everything's in its works. You know, we've got plans, and it's going to take time, and that's one of the things. Take little steps, take little bites with your own garden projects and all. When you look at this, it's massive for homesteaders, small growers and all. Don't get discouraged by looking at what we've accomplished over the years. Just think about what your goals, what your aspirations are, and your dreams are, and just take little baby steps throughout the process, throughout the steps of achieving your goals ultimately. And don't be afraid of allowing things to fail and saying, you know what, I should have done this differently, and so on. But I'm always trying to share the things that we've done that I wouldn't do again, so at least you can contemplate some of the challenges that we've had. You may find a better way of dealing with the things that we find that didn't work for us, and implement it in such a way that it works fantastic for you in your settings. Again, we're in Zone 5A, Oswego, New York. A pretty cold place most of the year, but this year it's a little bit different. Thanks so much for watching, folks. Feel free to leave a comment, ask any questions, and have a super fantastic and safe day. Bye-bye now.